The story begins with a very rich man who had made his fortune with somewhat questionable methods. He is dedicated to the purchase and sale of real estate by force. Now he had in his sights a beautiful building of which all the tenants had agreed to sell except a carpentry shop. That's why the mobster sends his men to make him change his mind. After intimidating the owner, he gets him to agree, so he decides to go celebrate with a noodle soup in an old restaurant he used to frequent, but he learns that the owner left a long time ago and now another woman runs the place. That's why the noodles don't taste as good as they used to. Ahead of the gangster was a chubby boy who gets bullied at school, and when he tries to pay, he realizes he had no money, so the lady makes the gangster pay for the 4 plates he ate. While the gangster was leaving, Don Hyon was on the roof of a building trying to recover his friend's shoe, but he lost his balance and fell right on top of the gangster. When he wakes up, he wanders around the hospital and suddenly sees his body on a stretcher. There he realizes that he changed his body. Now he is in the body of the boy who had eaten in front of him. When his father arrives, he was very worried. The doctors tell him that he has a type of amnesia that made him change his personality. This due to the strong blow he received on his head. Suddenly he remembers what the lady told him before charging him for the noodles. So he goes to see her, but his place is being evicted. It turns out that it had stopped working a long time ago. Panzu decides to go to his old house and tries to explain everything to his wife, but she obviously doesn't believe him and calls the police. So they arrest him and take him to the police station, but as he was a minor, they let him go free. In a desperate attempt, Pong Su tries to return to his body in every possible way, but none of them work and he ends up being caught by his right-hand man who threatened him for having crushed his boss. Later, when he returns home, his father prepares him a whole banquet, but Pang Su tells him that he can't eat all that. However, his body reacts on its own and ends up finishing everything. The next day, his father takes him to school to explain what happened because he suspects that it wasn't a suicide attempt. Pang Su also suspects the principal, so he tells him that he will investigate everything himself to put his father's mind at ease. When lunchtime comes, he sees his classmates bothering one of Don Hyon's friends, so he scolds them and tells them to make less noise so he can eat in peace. But one of the bullies approaches and tries to intimidate him, but to his good fortune, the teachers stop him. So he tells him to wait for him at dismissal time. When the time comes, Pang Su goes to confront him, and this time he doesn't act like the usual coward. This time he acts like a gangster, so he attacks him first, and with a couple of slaps, he educates the boy. When his friends come to help him, they also get what they deserve. The next day, they were bullying another boy in the bathroom, but Pang Su was in the toilet. So when you go out, he finds the bully's phone with the video where they were bullying him. So he decides to grab it to get evidence and tells him to give it back tomorrow without fail. The next day, we see how the leader of the thugs was complaining about the video, but just arrives Pang Su and confronts him. Both see each other face to face and tells him that for security he made a copy of all the videos, and if they bother him again he will show this evidence to the police. On the other hand, we learn that Pang Su's biggest rival, Chairman Yang, had found his wife cheating on him with a man from his organization and threatens to tell her husband and her father everything if she doesn't cooperate with him. So he has no choice but to accept. Then Pang Su goes up to the hospital to see his body and meets Monchol, his trusted man, and explains to him the whole situation of how he changed his body with the boy. After telling him some details of his life, Moncho believes him and takes him to lunch. When he finishes, Pang Su tells him that he wants to go back to his body, but his trusted man tells him that he should not, since he managed to get a younger body and he could live a new life. The next day when school ends, a girl runs by and drops a stuffed animal. She is Han Jun, the girl he likes, Don Hyon. And when he finally catches up with her, he meets her mother, who turns out to be Pang Su's first love. He is very surprised to see her and calls her by her name, but since she is in the body of someone younger, she gets upset and makes him run. Then he starts to do some math and also pulls out some of Han Jun's hair. It turns out that his suspicions were true, and she is actually his daughter. He is shocked and feels very bad about how they treat his daughter. So now he can't leave the school and leave her alone, so he decides to stay to take care of her, but since he is a mobster, he wants to solve things in another way, a little more brutal, but Manchol tells him that he can't do that since they are all children, and that it would be better to talk to Han Junzi's mother when he goes to tell her about it. She blames herself for everything and curses Pang Su for not being present in her daughter's life, so Pang Su tells her not to worry, that he will take care of everything. Then with the help of Manchol, they decide to train her so that she can defend herself from the girls that bother her, and also so that Pang-soo can get to know and get closer to her daughter. They both start a rigorous training, and in a short time, the chubby body of the boy becomes an athletic and slim body. He also puts on contact lenses and steals all the looks of the girls, and also his relationship with Han-jun becomes closer, so much so that after school they go to his house to eat noodles. When he enters, he sees the photos of his daughter when she was little and cannot help but get sentimental. When he returns home, he sees how some men were beating his father. It turns out that he owed them money, and when he tries to fight them all, his father stops him and takes all the blows for him, so Pang-soo sends his trusted man to take care of them. When he arrives, they try to stop him the hard way, but Mon-chol is a master, so he manages to beat them very easily. When he finishes with them, he tells them to erase Pang-soo's father from the list, because he had already paid his debt to them. Meanwhile, at school, we see how two girls try to bother Han-jun, but now she is no longer the same. This time she defends herself, so she ends up giving them a very good lesson. Later, Panzu goes to tell her friend's mother how her daughter defended herself from the bullies that bothered her for the first time. She is very happy for her help, and as thanks, she prepares the noodles they used to eat with the father of Han-jun when she was younger. But then a drunk customer arrives and asks her for a bottle of soyu. Then he takes the opportunity to be long-handed. She can't do anything, but Pang-soo gets furious and starts hitting all the drunks until Mi-suk stops him and asks him who he really is. That's when Pang-soo tells her the whole truth, but she doesn't believe him at first, but he tells her exactly where he has a mole on his butt. Then she claims to him for not telling her that they had a daughter together. Then she tells him that it doesn't matter, that he has no right to be a father, and throws him out. It turns out that Mi-seok had broken up with him because he was a gangster and didn't want her boyfriend to be working outside the law, and when he wanted to tell her that she was pregnant, Pang-soo told her that he would marry her president's daughter in a month, so she couldn't say anything else. The next day, the most popular boy in school invites Han-jun to a party, and Pang-soo quickly realizes that he likes the boy, but decides not to interfere, and before leaving, he pats him as a father. The next day, he meets his ex-girlfriend, but she tells him that if it weren't for this miracle, he would never have looked for her and would never have apologized. She also complains to him because he is married, so everyone in the place turns to look at them very surprised. When he is about to leave, Pang-soo comes out after her and kisses her by surprise, but she reacts very fast and slaps him. She tries to take him to the police station for disturbing the order of her heart, but his friend calls him and tells him that he heard the girl say that the guy who invited Han-jun to the party was actually in cahoots with them to do something very bad to her. When he arrives, he is very angry and has to force his way in. When he finally arrives at the center of the party, he sees how his daughter was being bothered, so he goes into the middle of everyone and rescues her. But the rich guy is not willing to let them go so easily, so he orders everyone to finish him off. But Pang-soo brings out his fatherly instinct, and with one move, he puts the biggest one to sleep, and then he finishes off each one of the bullies with great brutality. And since Han-jun already knew how to defend himself, he finishes off the rich guy with one move. The next day, Mon-chol wants to visit the body of Pang-soo, but it turns out that the president had forbidden it. The next day, Mon-chol wants to visit the president's body, but it turns out that the president had forbidden him to do so because his wife filed false reports that he had embezzled 3 billion won. So Pang-soo has no choice but to send Man-chol to force his way into the president's house and deliver a message. Then we see how Han-jun's mother thanks Pang-soo for rescuing her daughter, but asks him to stay away from her if he really wants to help her. And when he goes out on the street, one of the girls who was bothering her daughter approaches him to declare her love, but being an older man, Pang-soo has no choice but to reject her. But Han-jun arrives and tells him that if he doesn't want to go out with that girl, he should go out with her. Pang-soo is very upset by the idea and tells him that he should forget about all this. Then he tells his mother and she reacts very badly. She tells him that no matter what happens, he shouldn't go out with him. Her daughter tells her that he takes care of her and loves her like a father, and since she grew up without a father, that is what she is looking for in a man. Then her mother doesn't know what else to say, so in a desperate attempt, she looks for Pang-soo and tells him to stop confusing her daughter. He tells her that it's all a misunderstanding and that he never tried to do that, but Han-jun arrives and asks why the two of them are talking alone. Then Pang-soo can do nothing but tell her the truth and confesses that the one she really loves is her mother. Han-jun indignantly tells her that this is very unpleasant and runs away. Meanwhile, Chairman Yang had gone to the hospital to try to kill Pang-soo, but his body had woken up and he tells Chairman Yang to zipper his fly, so he gets scared and ends up falling and hits his head. Then he goes home and tells what happened to his father. But his father gets scared and doesn't believe him until Pang Su arrives and explains everything to him. He still doesn't believe them because he thinks this is a joke of his son. Then Pang Su thinks to make Mi Seok believe that everything had been fixed and that they changed bodies again. She was believing it until President Yang and his thugs arrived. They had come to finish with the body of Pang Su, but since it was really Don Hyeon, they had come to kill the body of Pang Su. As he was really Don Hyeon, he can no longer sustain the lie and acts like a coward. Then Pang Su confronts all the thugs and starts to defeat them one by one. When he was about to win, one of them hits him in the back. The chairman Yang knocks him out and grabs him as a hostage to take Pang Su away. But then Mi Seok comes out armed with a gas cylinder and threatens them all with blowing up the place if they don't leave the father of her daughter alone. At first they don't believe her, but she starts to count, and when they see how angry she was, they run away. When they leave, Mi Seok tells Pang Su's body that he had been waiting for him for a long time, and that even though he wanted to raise his daughter to be nothing like him, every time he sees her, he can't help but miss him. Then they give each other a warm hug. Then Pang Su's father-in-law confronts his daughter and tells her that what he hates the most is betrayal. He shows her the letter that Pang Su had sent him where he states that all this is nothing but a conspiracy to kill him. Then his daughter doesn't know what to say and ends up admitting that it was President Yang who asked him to do all this. So as punishment, he takes his mistress hostage. Now it's the turn of Don Hyeon, who has the important mission to act as Pang Su to confront his father-in-law and clear up all this mess. But when he arrives, he was very nervous and scared, but Pang Su was helping him through a microphone. So despite everything, the president wants him to be his heir and leave him all his assets, and as punishment towards his daughter, he doesn't want to leave her a single penny of inheritance. She gets very upset and tells him that Pang Su is not as good as she thinks because he cheated on her and has a daughter who is in high school. When Pang Su wants to tell her what to say, the transmission is cut off and Don Hyeon has to improvise, so he decides to clarify everything and tells her that he never cheated on her because their daughter was conceived before they got married and he didn't know of her existence until a few months ago, and tells her that because of that, he realized that the most important thing is family. So his father-in-law understands that he no longer wants to be her heir. Don Hyeon tells him that he doesn't know how rich he is, but he is right. His father-in-law asks him again if that is what he really wants. Then the boy plucks up the courage and answers yes, that he has lived his life so far with many regrets and he doesn't want to live like that anymore. He tells him that he is also a father, so he understands him and respects his decision. When he arrives with Pang Su, instead of scolding him, he hugs him and thanks him for making that decision, since he would never have been able to do it. While they are hugging, his ex-wife appears, and as she is very angry, she decides to take revenge. But Pang Su saves Don Hyeon and receives the full impact. On the way to the hospital, Pang Su tells Manchol to take care of her daughter. When they arrive at the emergency room, Mi Seok and her daughter also arrive. She asks if the man standing next to Don Hyeon is her father. But Pang Su goes ahead and tells her that he is in fact her father. She doesn't understand how someone her age can be her father, so she asks her mother if it is true. But before she answers, Pang Su tells her that she regrets not having been with her in the most important moments of her life, and that no matter what happens, she should not forget that her father loves her. Then Pang Su and Don Hyeon faint. When they finally put him in the operating room, the lady who had sold them the noodles appears and tells him, "What was it like to take care of your wife and daughter like that?" Then they put him to sleep and switch bodies. 6 months pass, and now we see how Don Hyeon returns to school, but he is still not used to his new body and the fact that he is now the most popular in the class, and now has an even closer relationship with Han Jun. We also see how President Yang gets arrested for fraud, and to everyone's surprise, Pang Su and Don Hyeon's father now work with Mi Seok in a cafeteria. They all seem to get along well and are happier than ever. This is the true meaning that money doesn't bring happiness, because Pang Su gave up everything he had to be with his family. Also comes Manchol shirtless to attract more customers. And this is how this beautiful drama ends. Do not forget to give me like and subscribe to the channel to not miss any video.